Warning: the following program may contain language and other elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been fucking warned.
Hey guys, Johnny Farrow here, and welcome to another episode of Musician Kitchen. I need theme music. Today I'm going to be doing a killer ball-busting bruschetta bread recipe. This is a super sexy recipe that can be used as just like a light snack, appetizer for a bigger meal, and it is just, it's to die for. So I'm going to jump right in. My ingredients here, I got tomatoes, an onion, garlic, we got parsley and basil, all fresh, freshly grated asiago cheese, balsamic vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, salt, pepper, and of course a baguette, because you don't do bruschetta bread without bread, and a baguette is the best bread in my opinion for bruschetta bread. Now say it 3 times fast. Anyway, a couple notes here. One, the tomatoes I'm using are tomatoes on the vine. They are the most flavorful aromatic tomatoes. To me, they're the ones I love to use for this. I will also use plum tomatoes from time to time if they're what's available. I never ever use beefsteak tomatoes. Beefsteak tomatoes are like 90% water. They're like the shit of the tomato kingdom. So when you think beefsteak tomato, think shit. Never use. Okay, so starting here, I'm going to get my tomatoes cut up. Start by just pulling the cores off. And what I do with the tomatoes here is I take my knife and I start out by slicing them. You know, relatively thin, probably about 1/4 inch or so is fine. And then what I'll do is I'll take and dice them up. And this, small dice, doesn't have to be minced by any means, but, a small chop, small dice. Hey guys, pro tip, and this is all about cutting tomatoes. If you notice, I'm using a serrated knife to cut my tomatoes into slices. There's a very specific reason for that. The reason is tomatoes are kind of squishy, they got that inside slimy thing happening, right? So when you cut them with a chef's knife, if the knife is not incredibly sharp, which most people, I don't know about you, my chef's knife is not crazy sharp, it'll actually squish your tomato. So if you use the serrated knife, it allows you to get a nice, clean cut for your slices without squishing the tomatoes, and then you switch over to your chef's knife to do your dice. So I got my tomatoes all chopped up here. They're nice and diced in my fancy, not fancy dollar store red bowl that I like because I can toss in things in it, right? So next I'm going to chop up a little onion. Start by lopping off the tip of the onion here, but just the tip. And I'm not using this whole onion because this is kind of a huge onion and you do not need that much onion to get the desired effect. This is not meant to be an onion bruschetta. It's just the onion's meant to enhance the flavor, not overtake it. So we're going to use like probably 1/3 of a good size onion. Something that if you got like a medium sized onion, you can just do half of it. And if you really like onion, you can by all means add a little more, but I would still start with a smaller amount. Now the way I'm going to cut this onion is I'm going to cut it into sections, and you'll see here, cut it into like, 1/4 inch sections basically, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and just relatively finely just chop this with the sections here. And this just makes it nice and easy to break it up, and it's just kind of ready to go right into your bruschetta this way. Bada boom. So now let's break this up a little bit, because you do not want onion chunks in your bruschetta, because that's no bueno. So I'm going to go ahead and just toss that into my bowl here. Boop, boop-a-doop. All right. So you see the ratio. There's not a huge amount of onion relative to the tomato. Again, onion just for flavor. It's not meant to like overpower the dish. So next, we got basil. And I like always to use fresh basil with this recipe. And honestly, with most recipes when I can, particularly with anything that's going to be left raw. Bruschetta, of course, we're not really cooking it. We're going to throw it in the broiler, with, just for a couple minutes, but by no means are we like cooking this. So for anything that's a fresh dish that you're using basil in, always use fresh basil. Please don't, just don't punish yourself that way by using, the dried stuff. And I'm just kind of doing sort of a coarse chop. I'm not going super fine on this. You can tell it's not really an exact science. We're just kind of roughing it up. And as you cut the basil, the other nice part about fresh basil is the smell. Smells so good. That's amore. So, into the bowl we go with our basil. You know, and feel free to be a little more generous on this if you really like the flavor of basil. And keep in mind, you can always add a little more tomato if you happen to go a little overboard on it. You know, feel free to not add all your tomatoes right away. And I like to toss things as I go a little bit, just to kind of get the mix happening. This will also give me a sense, you know, I kind of look by eye to determine where my bruschetta is at and if it's like ready, you know. So this right here, that's roughly what it should look like as far as your green to red to white color ratio. That's about the blend you want to see on your bruschetta. Now, we are going to do just a little bit of fresh parsley as well. And this, by the way, is the Italian parsley. It's also called flat parsley because these leaves are nice and flat, as opposed to what's called the curly parsley, which is generally only used for garnish, tastes kind of like crap. And you know, curly was a stooge, and you're not a stooge. You're a cook. So we're just going to chop up a little bit of this stuff. This is just meant to give it a little bit of brightness, a little more of that Mediterranean Italian flavor. I will go a little bit finer on this because I'm not going to use as much, and I want it to distribute. I just realized I'm hiding everything from you. Let me show you again how I'm doing that. See that? You see that? Do you see that? Anyway, bloop. And the parsley is in. A little toss. And this is what we're looking like so far. Now, garlic, our good friend garlic. Now, I am a garlic fiend. I will eat garlic cloves raw sometimes, particularly if I'm not feeling well, actually. Garlic is great for the immune system. It's just also freaking delicious. So I'm going to use, you know, I'm going to actually use probably 2 cloves because this is kind of big clove garlic here. But usually, like, I'll use like 3, like if they were all this size, I'd use 3 of these, you know. But this thing, you know, it's about the size of like the end of my thumb, you can kind of see. So like 2 of those is pretty good. I got a big thumb, you know. And what I do, back on my knife here, whack those. Whack, not like, but like, you know, whack them, right? And then the skin just peels right off. I whacked off my garlic. So yeah, skin's peeling off, bada boom. And then I'll give it another whack just to flatten it out. And that makes it super duper easy to chop. And we're going for like a mince here, right? So we want this chopped nice and fine. Fine as wine. All right. And you know, you got a little bit of parsley, a little basil left on the cutting board. Don't worry about it. It's all part of the dish anyway. Totally fine if a couple extra little tiny pieces get in. But you can see here, getting my garlic nice and thin, nice and minced. Not very thick at all. I'll take another pass through just to make sure. Bada bing. Okay. Garlic's ready. And I do, as I go along again, kind of eyeball what's going on and look at the ratio of colors of things. And that really is with this dish how I measure. So we got a little toss here. Now, tomatoes can be a little watery, so tossing is not always as easy to do as it normally would be, so I will incorporate with a spoon as well. Woo-hoo! All right, now on to our seasonings. A little salt, sea salt. Fairly generous, but not a lot, you know, just enough to bring some flavors out. Pepper, black ground pepper. A couple shakes. Nothing too crazy. Now, balsamic vinegar for the win. And here's why. These tomatoes have a beautiful flavor. This balsamic vinegar in small amounts will accentuate that flavor. It'll take average and make it sexy. That's what it's going to do. So here we go, a little sprinkle in here. That's it. That's all you need. All we're trying to do is bring out the sexy. That's it. And here it is. A little bit of olive oil to tie the dish together, because it really does tie the dish together. Not a lot, just like, tablespoons, something like that. And at this point, the olive oil does make things a little more viscous. You can see it's kind of shiny a little bit. So I'm going to go back to mixing with my spoon here. And at this point, that's pretty much all that goes into this dish. So I'm going to give it a little taste, just to make sure we got what we're looking for here. Oh yeah. I'm not going to lie. I can even stand a little garlic. I'm going to throw this little baby clove in. Just going to whack the baby on the head. Baby garlic, guys. Come on. Keep it G-rated, would you? Chop, chop, chop. All right. Garlic goes in. Happy comes out. And that right there is about perfect. So now that our bruschetta is done, before we go right to putting the bruschetta onto the bread, we're going to do one thing. We are going to obviously cut the bread up, and then we're going to toast it a little bit, and then bring it back out to top it with the bruschetta. So stay tuned for that. All right, so we got our baguette, and we got a pan lined with parchment paper. And I'm just going to cut this bread into slices. I like kind of sort of thicker slices, probably about like 1/2 inch, Just like that, using my bread knife here, my trusty old bread knife. All right, so I got about 12 slices here. Oh, I lied because I don't count the end. Now I have 12 slices. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, let's line these up. And what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle them with a little bit of olive oil. You can also use butter, avocado oil, whatever. Just whatever, you can, if you're going to use butter, either make sure it's soft so you can spread it, or that it's nice and melted so you can drizzle it. And then we're going to pop these under a broiler, or like a minute, minute and a half. Just keep an eye on them, because if they burn, they taste like shit. So I'll be right back. All right, so we got these just starting to get a little golden, you can see. And fair disclosure, guys, my broiler sucks. So you can see this one's like kind of nice and golden. This one's golden around the edges. This one's, dried out but not totally toasted. I don't like my bread super toasted, so this is kind of perfect for me. This is probably as far as I would go, is like this, right? So now, we are just going to spoon on our bruschetta onto these pieces. And it is going to be freaking glorious. Right. Whoo, that's hot. Careful not to burn yourself on your pan. It did just come out of the oven, you goof. Talking to myself there. It's going to get messy. You're not going to get it perfect. I mean, you can try if you want. Don't get me wrong, I'll laugh. But really, just get them on there, like so. You can also do this using a bigger piece of bread, by the way. If you want to take the baguette and like slice it in half lengthwise and cut it into quarters and do it that way, you can. And then you can just cut the slices that way. If you want to do like a pane, like an Italian bread, you can do that. Whatever bread you like, really. I mean, I just like the baguettes for this when I'm doing them bite size. But you can also, again, do with any bread you like. Ciabatta's nice. If you want to do it on some ciabatta, cut in half. That's actually really perfect because it's got those little crannies in it that'll catch some of this stuff for you. Okay, so now we got our bruschetta breads locked and loaded with bruschetta. Now, you didn't think I forgot about the cheese, did you? Asiago cheese. Now, I like asiago because it's got a similar flavor to Parmesan, but as I recall, it's a little bit healthier. And you just kind of sprinkle it on, like it's snowing. It snows in northern Italy, come on. A little bit of cheese, you can go light, you can go heavy. I like cheese, not gonna lie. As you can see, just be nice and generous with it. Again, it's gonna be messy, so just don't get all bent out of shape because it's a little bit messy. It's just gonna be messy. So that's all there is to it. And this is freshly grated. You can use Parmesan cheese, Romano cheese. I mean, any cheese you want, honestly. It's definitely more conducive to Italian cheeses because it's an Italian dish. But, you know, there's not really any rules in cooking as far as I'm concerned. If you want to throw some Swiss on there, knock yourself out. You want to throw Gruyere on there, gorgeous. Fontina, whatever you like. You know, whatever. Gouda. Why not, right? So now I'm going to pop this back in the broiler just for like a minute. Again, my broiler sucks, so it might even take a little longer on my broiler. Keep your eye on it though. Check it after a minute, minute and a half. You just want to go until the cheese is nice and melted. So we're going to do that and we'll be right back. All right, so these are out. They're gorgeous. Oh my God, look at these. These are so sexy. Just look at this. Look at the way the cheese is melted on there and that's nice and toasted. Oh my God, get in my mouth. So we're just going to plate these up here. And these are a little on the toasty side. Ooh. And also, if you want to get real fancy here, throw this on here. Line up some bruschettas on your platter. And then also line up some of your unused bruschetta bread. So you can kind of have people, if they want just some untoasted. A little bit of cheese in a dish. And voila, you have got one super sexy, delicious bruschetta bread entree, snack, appetizer. I have eaten this as a meal, I'm not going to lie, so I say entree. You can make it an entree if you want. And it's actually not quite vegan or vegetarian, but if you close your eyes and just pretend there's no cheese on it, it's vegan. Just kidding. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. The recipe is down below if you want to give it a go and try it. Let me know how you like it if you do. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Share this far and wide. If you know anyone that would enjoy this recipe, that likes to cook, that just likes, you know, silly shit, I'm your guy. And, you know, until next time, this is the Musician Kitchen. I'm Johnny Farrow. I'll see you later. Mwah.